The world is saved. The living room's dark save for light being cast from the big TV screen and the imminent sunrise that's teasing the one starry sky with whispers of morning.
Hey, George.
I am so viscerally upset with you right now. And here's why. Is because I know that your counter argument is going to be, well, you suggested that we played this, but you let us. And so you're the peer reviewer. This is on you.
I'm thinking about selling all of my things and moving to Cambodia to teach English as a second language. I don't see any reason not to do that.
Yep. So then it's the second person's fault.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to live your life. Just make all of your terrible ideas, because even though it's your terrible idea that you still then have to execute on, it's somehow everyone else's fault.
Yeah, and it's really great. The stronger external locus of control I can like embed in my life. I hear that leads to greater happiness. So.
Definitely. I wonder how many people are looking at their podcast player like, did I jump ahead in the episode? Like, what are they? They're already yelling at each other. What's going on?
Normally this takes at least 5 to 10 minutes.
So let's do our thing. So we played Battletoads, but we need to talk about the universe around Battletoads. So
first you have to create the universe.
Yes.
Then unfortunately you create Battletoads
to bake a Battletoads. So we usually record remotely. Most of the games we play, if we do play them co-op, we play them with like our spouses or our friends or something to try and get the co-op experience. But we often don't get to play a game together. Mm-hmm. But we said at some point we're going to have to play Battletoads.
Yes. So
let us save it for when we are in each other's company and test the mettle of our friendship.
Pretty much. I mean, to me, the way I kind of looked at it was I was like, we have to play this game together because I am going to need deep emotional support from like because you when you play with your spouse, like they're playing they're a tourist, like because they don't have to do it. They can leave at any point. Like we have to play the game, right? If they're like, this is dumb and I don't want to do this anymore, like they can just leave. But like, and it's like, well, now I just have to. So I'm like, I need to go into this deep Vietnam bush with like somebody like a fellow vet who like also has to be here,
Yeah. No, you want someone in the foxhole who like knows which way to point the rifle.
Yeah.
Right? Like these are not training exercises. Like we are under live fire.
Yeah, exactly. This is real time. Yeah. We're playing with live rounds.
Yeah. So as we record this, it is the holidays.
Woo!
So you're here in my house, mm-hmm. and we sat down and slapped it in the old NES machine and like started playing Battletoads. And it was, I don't know.
It performed at or near expectations.
No, it did. But I was going to say, like, the first level is approachable, right? Yeah. But then the difficulty curve spikes up super bad, right? Yeah. So we didn't get far. We didn't get anywhere close to far. We didn't get anywhere close to beating it.
Oh, no,
right?
Not. I mean, like, we got underwater super fast. I mean, because I think it was just kind of like, to me, I think that this is what, a bad guy or whatever, in DBZ feels like fighting Goku, because like you go against Goku and you're like, alrighty, man, I'm pretty good at this. I can probably beat this. And then he's like Super Saiyan, and you're like, oh God, like I am barely struggling to hold my own. And he's like, now I shall become a Super D-Duper Saiyan. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm completely underwater. And he's like, this isn't even my final form, and it's just kind of like, oh God.
I have all sorts of different hair colors. So just to be clear, this is not Battletoads Arcade. This was not one of the re-releases where they like gave you control over the difficulty. This is not Battletoads and Double Dragon. This was OG 1991 Nintendo Battletoads.
So because we were unable to get very far into it, we decided to use our secondary form.
That's true.
Which is to use as opposed to normally, as we would normally go through visuals, sound, and then mechanics, we're going to use the 8 core aesthetics. To kind of like break it apart and kind of see where this leads us, because otherwise the entire episode would go visuals. Yes, it had them. I wish I got to see more of the game. Sound. Yes, it had them. I wish I got to see more of the game. Mechanics. Yeah, it had them. I wish I got to see more of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
The curtain falls.
So before we jump into the list, I think we both played this as kids, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what was your nostalgia experience?
So I, not having a learned or older brother.
You grew up alone in a cave. Right?
Yes, exactly. Sad.
Wolf child.
Oddly had a lot of gaming systems for wolves, but.
And places to plug them in.
Yeah. But I mean, when I would plug it into the side of my cave, like while I was playing, my wolf mother would bring me like a killed rabbit, and I would just kind of like snack on that while I would play this game. No, I didn't have an older brother, so because of that, like I never got past the the surf, not the surfboard, the
hover bike.
Hover bike. Yeah, I never got past that. Like as far as I was concerned, this was 3 levels. Like this game was 3 levels. You got to the hover bike level, then the game ended.
Yeah. And then you die till you give up, and then the game ends.
To be fair, though, I do remember this game fondly, and the thing I remember the most about it is like how the Battletoads were like morphic, and like
morphic.
Yeah, so like they
they like turn into stuff when they like the giant boot on the big kick.
Exactly. Like when they hit something, like their hand becomes like super large, right?
Got it. Yes.
So I remember that, and like I do remember like thinking like pretending that, like taking that out of the game and pretending in real life. So I remember this game fondly, what little of it I played. I remember like getting to that level. I think this may have been my start of becoming a Taoist, where like, I would hit that level and then be like, and all of this is impermanence. Like I cannot be mad about this, for it simply is. And then just turned off the system.
It's good to be that enlightened as like an 8-year-old.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But anyway, so what about you?
So I did and do have an older brother. And this is one of the only games, maybe the only game, just because as a kid, I didn't have a giant library at home. So I played most of my games at my friend's house. But this might be the only game that we had at home where I would get to the hover bike level, which is early. It's like literally the 3rd level of the game, where I would get to that level and then be like, Chris,
help.
But the thing is, like, I was young enough and I don't remember that in like a negative way. So to me, that was like in my memory, that was just how you played that game.
Yeah.
Right. Is like, you played the first couple levels by yourself, and then you handed that part off to your brother. And then because my number of reps of the beginning part of the game compared to the later part of the game is so unbalanced, I recognize some of the later levels. Like we actually, before we started recording, we queued up a speed run on YouTube, and I was like, oh, I remember this. Oh, I remember this. Oh, I remember that. So like I definitely played those levels and probably saw Chris play those levels, but I have really super clear memories of the first 3 levels because those are the levels I always played myself.
Right. Absolutely.
But I like you, I don't remember this game unfondly, right?
Yeah.
Because that was like, I liked playing Battletoads. It's only now as an adult, or probably would have been like as a teenager, that I was like, this is way outside my skill level, and it's so far outside my skill level that I'm not having any fun, because something can be way beyond you and still be fun, and this was not that.
No, it was not. I think that like I said, I think that I remember the game fondly because it was fine, it was enjoyable, but then to just see some of the choices that they make now as an adult, I was just kind of like but anyways, so top of the list, just to kind of give a quick overview, there's 8 aesthetics. There's sensation, and we'll describe each one, but just give her a quick premise. Sensation, sense pleasure, fantasy, narrative, challenge, fellowship, discovery, expression, and abnegation. So in the last one, we kind of just went through in that order because I believe that's the order that they're listed in the paper: mechanics, dynamics, aesthetics.
Yeah.
We're going to switch it up a little bit, and we're going to start with challenge because that colors everything. and as opposed to like constantly like alluding to it, we're just going to start there. So the question is that there are 2 questions for each of these: is does it try to deliver on this core aesthetic, and then does it do it successful?y Because again, a good game typically, or most games, don't even try to deliver on all 7. Like it is, those are rare and few and far between. Most games try to deliver on like 2 to 4. So it is fine to say like it does not try and it does not succeed, because
that's not a failure, that's a design choice.
It's just kind of like saying like oh man, this place does hoagies and wings and ramen. Yeah, they might be trying to do too much.
It's always whenever you go into an American restaurant and they add in, it's always an Asian dish, right? It's sushi or udon or something. It's like, oh wow, pizza and burgers. And sushi?
When you're like, I don't know. I mean, in the same place, like I really, really love, being able to fuel my car to get from point A to point B. I also don't need to get my sushi from those places, though.
Right. Yeah.
So challenge. Challenge is game as obstacle course. So does it try to deliver on this, and does it succeed?
Yes. So full marks
of trying
for attempting to be challenging, and full marks for succeeding at being challenging. And I think it's important to remember that this is a Nintendo game, which means 2 buttons, y'all. Like, that's what you have. You almost never do complicated arrow button combinations in Nintendo games. Like, you're moving, right? But this is a Nintendo game where the way you are moving also affects what one of the buttons does, because the state of your momentum and the state of the enemy sometimes changes your attack. Like you mentioned the giant fist, like you don't get to just decide to do the giant fist. The giant fist happens under certain conditions. And if you are not really aware of what those conditions are, because the giant fist is slower than the normal fist, so you may actually not want to do the giant fist, but you do the giant fist. Right?
You getting it?
Yeah. So there's not only the obstacle course itself of the level design that makes it challenging, because there's all kinds of pits you can fall and die into, and enemies just shoot up out of the ground sometimes. But there's also just the controls want to be more complicated than a 2-button Nintendo controller really facilitates. So you end up having to internalize all of these situations in which the buttons will deliver specific results. Then you also have the challenge of making those things happen when you want them to happen.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you how many times we were playing, I turned into a dumbbell, like on the rappelling down level, and just clocked you.
Dude, we murdered each other in that level. So that's another thing is
friendly fire is on.
The fact that friendly fire is on is also another challenge design choice, right? They were like, it would make this harder if you have to be aware of your brother, sister, friend, cousin. Like, if you can't just swing wildly all the time, like that makes the game way more challenging in a way that I'm not sure a secondary player is automatically like a net gain.
I don't think that it is, and I think that they didn't want it to be. I
think it's a net gain if you are both highly skilled, but if one of you is highly skilled and the other person is low skill, or God help you if you are both low skill.
It's fusion dance fusion. It's not Patara earring fusion.
Yes.
So I agree with you. Full marks for tries. I actually want to penalize them for being successful at this, because I think that from my seat, it's not challenging, it's impossible, So and so I mean, if you take like the average player's like skill level, right? I mean, it's just kind of like, for example, if I was like, I want to have like a challenging sparring match, right? Like if you say like, hey, we're gonna build out like a tournament so that way a whole bunch of people can play and they can all get like a challenging grappling match, right? Like, that's cool, and you can definitely do that and build out a tournament to do that. If everyone is facing 1985 Arnold Schwarzenegger on cocaine, then it's not challenging. It's just a beating, you know? So I definitely think that they succeed to some degree. I'm not saying it's like a complete failure, but I'm saying like to me, like a game that delivers really, really well on challenge is a game like Mario, where it's like, it's absolutely an obstacle course. And yeah, it is super easy for some people, but then there are levels that, you can opt into or opt out of that are even more challenging, or games where you can set the difficulty level or where there's user defined difficulty. There's none of that in this. And so basically, it's just kind of like sprinting full force into that brick wall isn't a challenging race. It just hurts, So I think that they did definitely make this game to be like, we're going to make this game as hard as humanly possible. And to me, it's just, and to be fair, they didn't do some of the punishing things that we've seen before. Like, they made the cycle time insane, and for all we know, you do have infinite continues.
As far as I know, you do have infinite continues, but when you continue in single player, at least, it throws you back to the beginning of the
stage.
Yeah, the stage. So the fact that you can skip the little cutscenes like in between levels when the 1980s stereotype woman is talking at you.
With the crazy eyes.
Yeah, like Booberella,
Yeah.
like whatever kind of stereotype she's supposed to be. Like when she's like, you know, "Mwah," like you can skip all that.
Yeah.
And there's no other real like time wasted. There's no overworld map. There's no like getting to where you need to go. So I think you probably could make a reasonable argument that like, because it's a beat 'em up style game. So like when you eat it, if you have another life, you respawn in place.
Right.
So the cycle time for a single death is like close to 0.
Yeah.
Right. It's a couple of seconds. The cycle time for losing all your lives and having to continue is longer, but this is definitely a case where it's like, if you kept eating it there that many times, then like you need to back up and practice these skills, right? And if you actually get thrown all the way to the beginning of the game, which I feel like that can happen in single player, but I just don't remember the conditions under which it would happen. But if you do get thrown all the way back to the beginning of the game and you continue out or whatever it is, then it's like, no. You really need to internalize like your jump arc because you keep falling in a pit, or how the punches work because you keep like falling in a pit, right? Like whatever it is. So like I can't say the cycle time is bad or even unfair. Like they are constantly reminding you like you're not going to be able to do X until you've done A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on, right? So it's hard, dude. It's so hard.
Yeah, it's
like,
hard. It's really hard. Well, and like here's the thing is that, you know, we have actually, in my opinion, played a game of a similar difficulty very recently.
Celeste.
But that's the thing is the Celeste cycle time is way tighter, you know? So I think that's the thing is if they've wanted to make it this controller smashingly hard, that the cycle time, though it is shorter, I mean, that's the thing is I don't want to like take points away from that in the sense of like it is shorter than a lot of games at the time, you know? So it's not like, you know, because I mean, if we had gone to like the whatever hover bike thing, died 2 times, and then I kicked back to the beginning of the game, I would have just shut it off then, you know,
done forever.
Right. So the fact that they didn't do that makes it playable, but at the same point in time, it's like, and again, cycle times like Celeste were unheard of at the time.
Oh yeah.
You know, so I mean, like it's not surprising that they didn't like, you know, be like, you died, you're back like a second, you know, like not surprising that they didn't do that. But yeah, I mean, like to me, it is very easy to make a game that beats the player. It's difficult to where you really deliver on challenge is where you make a game that on the broadest spectrum possible gives people just enough challenge that they can like barely succeed.
Right.
You know, and this is not that. So I'm not saying that they completely failed like the last time we did this, which was Rampage, where, you know, the whole point of the game was challenge and they removed it by giving you infinite lives. Like, so that's completely removing it. But to me, it's not like a perfect delivery on it.
Well, and there's no, I don't think there was a way, even really now, but certainly not at this point in history, to say, here is a game, like, here is the punching machine before the Budokai Tenkaichi, right? Like here is the threshold. If you cannot even cross this line, you can't play at all, right? Like it would almost be, I mean, I know this is an absurd example, but it's like your mom or dad goes into the store to like buy this game for you, and it's like, can your child do this? Okay, you can buy this game, right? Because otherwise they're going to hate it, right? Because there isn't enough game with a short enough cycle time that in the game universe, I think you could be realistically expected to learn to overcome these challenges without throwing an absurd amount of time at this single game. Like, you would have to be good at video games to even show up at this game. And like a couple times, like we've been playing games recently and like I'll just roll my eyes at some unbelievably stupid death, and I'll just turn to Susan and I'll be like, I swear to God, I'm not this bad at video games. Like, I don't want to blame the game, but like, I really thought I was better at video games than this. But the whole time with Battletoads, I was just like, not my fault, not my fault, not my fault, not my fault.
Nope. Yeah. So I would say that, you know, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 for trying, and I give it like a 3 for successful.
For delivery.
Yeah, for delivery.
Okay. You're going to keep score?
Sure. So then next up, sensation, sense pleasure. So this is, you know, you know, you play this game for the visuals, you play it for, you know, like the audio, you play it for,
so the music, granted, we only got exposed to a little bit of it, and I heard some more familiar music in the speed run we watched part of, but the music's pretty good. Like it's pretty satisfying NES music. They kept a lot of it in like the lower register because most of the sound effects are like a little sparkly and higher pitched, so that way they don't step on each other, which is kind of nice, or at least not as often. but the visuals I think are actually really satisfying.
I agree.
Because the cartoony, what you call it, morphic, the like when you like kick an enemy and it's the final kick and they're going to be dead and you get the giant work boot. Yeah. Or the huge fist, or you headbutt them and the top of your head goes completely flat and you just like knock them way off screen, and the dumbbell swinging thing, like those are all like really good visuals. And there is I don't know what you would call it. There's like a tiny pause.
Yes.
Like, so when you do a super hit that finishes an enemy, there's like a
slight delay.
Like right when you nail them and they're dead, it's like connect, tiny, like, couple of frames pause, and then they're dead or they fly off the screen or whatever. And that's like that. It looks good even today. Like it looks really good.
It feels amazing. No, to me, it's like the way predecessor to like. And I guess animes were probably doing this at the time, but like the like they run and they punch and then like everything like goes like super slow mo for like that like tenth of a second and then like speeds back up.
Yeah, like the 300. Yeah.
Like the idea is that like you have hit them so hard that it is like taking some time. The reason why they don't move immediately is because you're transferring so much momentum to them,
right?
That like it's like taking them a minute to like get up to speed for and then they just go flying off of the screen.
Yeah.
That's all super satisfying. I mean, like honestly, and I think that so trying, yes, absolutely. I think that everything about this. Oh, and also for the music, the one thing that I just want to touch on briefly is, I was really surprised that this didn't become annoying, but I really loved the pause music, man.
Yeah, so allow me to illustrate for folks at home. So when you pause the game, which we had to pause the game a lot because
for emotional sanity.
Well, and we kept like just laughing our asses off at how poorly things were going. Like there was just a lot of like, we need to like pause the game and like regroup emotionally.
Especially during the hover bike, where it's like, all right, I got it. Blam. All right, no, that one was on me. Blam. No, wait, all right, that one was on me. Blam. I feel like that one was the game, but you know what? Here's what the problem was. The problem, blam. All right, no, wait, that one was on me.
Yeah, no, that just a lot of like giggling like children, right? So when you pause the game, it goes and it does that forever, because at one point we paused the game and like got up and walked out of the room to like go refill our water or whatever we were doing, but like we walked away, we were gone for like a solid 5 to 10 minutes, and then when we came back it was still like and I was just like, oh, it's still going.
Yeah. Like, ooh, that doesn't end.
They really want you to know the game is paused, I guess, even though like nothing's moving, but there can be times where you are on screen and nothing's moving. And now that I think about it, we didn't test this, but I'm pretty sure that this game, which is a beat 'em up, does not have the like, hey moron, get your ass moving finger. Like the go from like Final Fight and those kinds of games. So maybe that's why the pause music is so dramatic, because you, the player, need to know like the game's paused. It's not that the world isn't interacting with you, it's that the game is paused. But yes, it is incredibly enjoyable. Is the long way of getting to. I also loved that.
Yes, yeah, no, I mean, I really enjoyed that, and like all the visuals, like you really like it's not because we I don't think we played on the show, but we played side-scrolling beat 'em ups. Sure. And sometimes it's like. Or I mean,
no, dude, we played a bunch.
Yeah, we totally have. And now I'm thinking about it, a great counterexample would be Golden Axe, which is super unsatisfying because like you hit them and then you like knock on like the top of their head,
bunk, dead,
kick them. Yeah. So this is super satisfying. So as far as tries, I'm confident that they didn't like stumble their way into all of these animations and like delicious music and great sound effects. Like they were definitely trying. And honestly, this I think they did very heavily succeed.
Oh yeah, no, I'm full marks on both again. And I think there's a lot of little visual things that there was a Battletoads cartoon, right?
Yeah, but I think
it came after the game.
Yeah, I think it was the game. Then...
But doesn't this? I remember saying this when we played Earthworm Jim. Doesn't this almost feel like they were like, we want to make a cartoon, and as the pilot episode, here is a video game.
Yeah, I mean,
because like the giant fist, the fact that like. There's the little walker things right early in the first level, and like when you kill them, like you can pick up their leg and then beat other things to death,
including
with
each other,
especially each other. So like there's a lot of things that are like visually tasty because they make the world feel richer and more interactive, right? So when you giant fist that thing and its body goes flying, but one of the legs falls to the ground, and then you pick up the leg and you beat player 2 to death with it because he keeps making that joke. Right. So then that's well thought out visuals, right? Like the pause music, I can imagine someone saying they got annoyed with that, but we loved it.
Yeah.
But like there's a lot of charming thought put into the visuals and the audio, and they're attempting, and I think they deliver.
Yes, absolutely. And I will say though that for sure, when we both had the giant pipe, I was more afraid of you than
any enemy.
Yeah, because like I remember a bad guy coming out and being like, "Oh, I can get this bad guy," and just seeing you like just coming screaming across the screen like, "Don't, no, please don't do this."
Yeah, no, because I mean it gives you a ridiculous reach, right? Your normal punch is like a little jab, but the pipe thing you swing overhead like axe chopping style, so it's like in Castlevania, like in Super Castlevania, like it gives you a giant reach on the screen, which means you're way more likely to kill your friend.
Oh yeah. So then
giant fisting.
Have you ever seen a fist this big? So anyways, next up is fantasy. So this is, game as make-believe, right?
I struggle with the word fantasy just because it always makes me think medieval, even though it shouldn't.
Right.
But this is definitely very sci-fi.
Yeah.
Right. It's your boss is a bird. I don't know why. They don't really explain that part, but like your boss is a bird, you're giant mutant toads. There's an evil Booberella that's like, I don't actually know what she's trying to do. Take over the universe? Kill you? I'm not sure. I think she's trying to take over the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
That sounds
galaxy
right.
or planet. No, you go to different planets. It would have to be the galaxy at least. Anyway, but like, yeah, it's fantastical. It is definitely fantastical.
Yeah, and I think that as far as, like the idea is that they are trying to sell us like you are the Battletoad, Yeah, I say like that's the game try to deliver on it. I think that they do. I would not say that it is a core aesthetic though,
No, it's the paint job.
Yeah.
The paint job is the reason it's okay for you to give your 8-year-old this game where they beat other things to death is because most of those things are mutants or robots and they're a giant toad. Like if it's two people beating a group of other people to death, like I would give an 8-year-old Battletoads, but I might not give them Final Fight. Right, because it's it's something they could emulate.
I might give somebody Pokemon. I wouldn't give them Dogfighter Simulator.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Bummer.
There is definitely a game like that on Steam.
Oh God.
I mean, I'm not sure, but I'm sure.
Yeah, we live in the worst timeline. But I mean, especially because fantasy is also sometimes said it's like fancy baseball player. Like what's that baseball game you eventually want us to play?
Oh,
Battle.
No, crap. Base Wars.
Base Wars.
Base Wars.
Yeah, exactly. Like that would be one where like fantasy is definitely a part of it because like you're putting yourself in this other role.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is definitely like a part of it, but I do not believe it is a core aesthetic, and I don't think that they're really like trying to. I think that they're kind of, it's very similar. I think you've made an apt analogy to Earthworm Jim, very similar to that, where it's just kind of like we're gonna save the fantasy and the narrative. We're gonna save all of that for the TV show.
Right. That's coming.
Yeah, that's coming. Don't worry about it. But like honestly, I think like you said, it's the paint job. So as far as like tries, I don't think they're really trying to, and they succeed as much as they try. Like I wouldn't say that they fail at it, but you're not playing this thing to be like, I want to know what it's like to step into the role of a Battletoad,
Yeah, agreed.
They're the real heroes here.
Well, and I'm similar with you on scoring, but I wonder if this analogy holds up. So like one of my cars, or my wife and I each have a car, but like the car I primarily drive is a fairly bright orange, right? It's if you've ever seen the Subaru orange, it's that color orange, right? But I don't feel like it doesn't matter that the car is orange. The car just is orange, right? It could be white or black or blue or whatever, but like if you drive a red Corvette, like it matters that Corvette is red. That's a color. Like Corvette red is actually a paint color that they have a trademark on. So like if I say like, if somebody's like, oh, what color is your car? And it's like, oh, it's orange. But if I drove a Corvette red Corvette, I would probably say it's Corvette red. Right. So like that's the paint job of Battletoads they didn't neglect the theming that they slapped on it, but that's not why they showed up.
Right.
Unless you're speculating that like we can get a lower rating if we don't make humans punch other humans to death, but that's more like a business decision.
Yeah, I think that the paint job is a good thing in the sense that it's kind of like you have to have paint on a car. You know, like you can't.
Yeah, there can't be no visuals.
Right. Yeah, there can't be like nothing. So it's just kind of like, hey, we want to make this like really awesome, intense, difficult side-scrolling beat 'em up. You know, like it's like, oh well, what if they were like, like Battletoads? And it's like, yeah, that sounds rad. And so I just think that they kind of went with that. So
yeah.
Next up on the list, narrative, which is game as drama. So this would definitely be like your Final Fantasies, Legend of Zelda, like stuff like that.
So there is a story, and I wouldn't even say that the story is phoned in, but it is paint.
It is, yeah, it is not a chorus.
Yeah, they're not trying to deliver a rich, well thought out story, but there needs to be some reason that you are Battletoads punching the minions of Booberella. Like, why is any of this happening? And they could have just done none of that, and they could have just dumped you into the levels and had 2 sentences on the back of the box that were like, you are the Battletoad destroying the minions of Booberella. And yeah, an 8-year-old is totally going to be on board with that. That's fine, which is why they put in the minimum amount of story that they did. But I mean, I bet a lot of kids played this game that like might not be able to read some of the words.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that when you look at it, as far as like, I mean, I do not believe it is a core aesthetic. But like one of the things I learned, because I've done a little bit of like, graphic design for like card games and stuff like that. And if I can ever get it together, I'm totally going to plug it on the show. But that being said, like one of the things that you can do is like feather a border,
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't realize how often in like stuff that borders are feathered until you like try pulling one together where you don't feather the border and it was stark, and it's fine. That is a tool, you can do that. But most of the time you're like, I need a little, even if it's just like a little bit of feathering, just so it doesn't like look like all of a sudden like black, then white.
Right. Yeah. That gentle transition, even
exactly.
if it's super, super subtle, it's not none.
Exactly. So that's the thing is that, like, is there story to this? Yes. Is it core aesthetic? No. But if there was no story whatsoever, like if all of a sudden you were just dropped in on a planet, you're like, oh, okay. And especially because there is a fantasy, I'm now thinking about it, because there is a fantasy part to it, I would say that having some narrative is even more so important because, and I'm trying to remember Contra, right? Not the Alien Wars. But if I remember correctly, they do just kind of dump you in. Right?
Oh, yeah. No, that's probably 2 sentences on the back of the box.
Right. But the thing is that, what are they? Well, they're soldiers, right? So you're like, oh, I'm a soldier fighting in an army fighting against like other soldiers, right?
Yeah.
So that you immediately, like you have, something to go with that. If all of a sudden you're like, I am a giant anthropomorphized turtle on some weird alien planet fighting pigmen, I need something to frame what is happening.
Yeah. No, I mean, especially like comparing it to Contra is when you look at the cover of Contra, like you're like, oh, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. Not kind of. Obviously that is what they did.
They resemble but are legally distinct.
Yes, please don't sue us. Kind of. But Battletoads, there's nothing about it that would immediately communicate like the good guys are the Battletoads. You said turtles a second ago, by the way.
Oh, did I?
Although there are anthropomorphized turtles that also fight giant pigmen.
So I'm not wrong. I'm just not accurate here.
Yes. Was that high accuracy, low precision?
Yeah, I hit the mark. I just was on the wrong game.
But there's nothing that I think would make you immediately say the toads are the good guys and the pig people are the bad guys, because it's not even that cut and dry. Because like the bird guy is your boss. Like, are birds good guys? Are there some of the birds are bad because they try and kill you in the second level? Like, so they do need to create like a little bit of narrative. And I'm now thinking that I should continue with this analogy until I totally break it.
Sweet.
Is that the narrative is actually the paint, and then the fantasy is the top coat. Like that's the gloss, right? Because the narrative could be they're human soldiers fighting other human soldiers, and like that would be the loose narrative that explains like why you're doing what you're doing, and then the fantasy is just like the we've kind of like glossed this over, right? Like the story is these guys kill those guys,
Right.
and that's the paint that has to be there. And then the fantasy is kind of like, all right, and now we've glossed it over, like we've cemented in place that this is Toad's good guys, Pigmen bad guys, Booberella boss of the bad guys.
Right. But I definitely don't think that they were like, we're going to create this deep, enriching story that, like people will talk about for the ages. Like people will, you knew where you were the day you were playing Final Fantasy VII and Aerith died.
Yeah.
Like you knew where you were. You could describe exactly what was going on.
Dude, spoilers.
Yes. But yeah. So I mean, like this is not that. It's not trying to be that. It's just so
No,
I'd say
this
again.
this comes from the 80s school. I mean, the game is 91, but it definitely comes from the 80s school of let us manufacture a thing that will sell toys, right? And one of the easiest ways to do that is to create conflict between good guys and bad guys. And that can be super arbitrary, like G.I. Joe. That can be super arbitrary, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That can be super arbitrary, like He-Man. But you have good guys and bad guys, and then you sell toys of the good guys and toys of the bad guys so that you can sit there and smash those toys together, and so that you can watch the cartoon of those two figures smashing together, right? Like it's not that it's not art. It's just it's business art.
All right, so then, so null on both. Next up is Fellowship. So game as social framework.
So
Yeah, this one I'm a little. To be fair, I think that for me personally, this is one where I'm like, I don't, because we're not experts in this thing. I'm like, I don't know that I know enough about the exact definition of this to perfectly comment on. We're gonna try, but
I'm going to say they're trying. Like they definitely, if we're doing this on like a 5-point scale, this is a solid 3, maybe 4 on trying to deliver on Fellowship. And I would say the execution is like a 2 or 3, and only because I disagree with. I'm not going to assume what they were going for, but I disagree with the mechanic of friendly fire, especially if you can't turn it off. And saying like, well, but if you can kill each other, you have to coordinate. It's like, yeah, but it's so easy to kill each other. It is so easy to end player 2's life inadvertently.
Yep.
And then when player 2 respawns, they're angry with you, and then they end your life on purpose. And so,
which totally didn't happen.
no, not at all. But the like as people, like 2 people playing this game, I think you could say like, oh, friendly fire's a thing, or like oh, Bill, you can hit me, don't hit me. Like there is that, but I feel like the amount of times it happens by accident sucks a lot of the fun out. Because if there's friendly fire, but it's hard to do it by mistake, or hard-ish to do it by mistake, then it's like, oh, we just have to not kill each other. You stay over there, I'll stay over here. Like, hey, I'm coming your way. We're coordinating, right? Like it's more social because we're coordinating. But to say like I was just playing the game and then I accidentally murdered player 2 repeatedly because I was just trying to kill this one bird in the stupid repelling level, like that's not fun. And it's not fun because additional coordination would not have prevented those accidental murders. So now you're just mad at the game, but you can't take it out on the game. You got to take it out on me.
Yeah, and I did.
You did. I did. We both did.
Yeah, we both did. We're not friends anymore. This is our last episode. The curtain falls. So I definitely agree that they are trying to deliver on Fellowship. And I would definitely also say that they're not as successful as they should be.
Right.
And I think that to me, it's kind of like, look, you can train in the 100 times Earth's gravity, or you can use the weighted clothing. Both is senseless, because like now it makes it even more difficult to create a modulated experience, know? So the idea is it's like, all right, we're gonna make this game super hard. It's like, then great, then turn friendly fire off for this one. If part of the challenge that you're trying to deliver on is like this, like kind of like nuanced coordination, then you need to make sure that the controls are first of all tighter, because like the controls were a little loose as we
I feel like the controls
they're sluggish.
Well, and they belie animations that are not present. Like when you start running, there's no like wind up where you like take a step and then a faster step and then a faster step. You just go directly into the running animation, but you're not moving at full speed. So the visual doesn't sync up with the responsiveness, and I think that's what's jarring. If you had to get up to speed, I would say fine, but if you immediately look like you're running full speed, but you are super not, then it feels sluggish.
Yeah. And I think that, like in this game in particular, because it is so difficult, if they wanted to work on on Fellowship, there's a whole lot of other things they could have done that they, instead of making the other player make the game more difficult, they should have made the other player make the game easier. For example, like, because what we eventually did to deal with it was we basically said, like, you stay on this side of the screen, I'm going to stay on this side of the screen, and never the two shall meet.
Yeah, no, we Lucy Ricardo drew a chalk line down the middle of the apartment.
Yep.
And we're like, you don't come on my side, but that's breaking because we're not coordinating. We are feuding.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like we're not coordinating. This is not Fellowship. This is maybe like the what was it, Boromir? You know, like
yeah. You never go full Boromir.
You never go full Boromir. So anyways, so, you know, because of that, like, because there was no good reason for us to interact. Now, if instead they had turned off friendly fire and instead, like, hey, you know, like, if I hit a guy and then you hit him, like, then you get, like, you hit him harder. Or something
you do
like
double
that.
damage.
Yeah, or something like that, where it's just kind of like, oh, yeah, no, now we would be coordinated and be like, okay, let's both take out this guy. Now it's both, but no, we basically said, like, you stay on your side, I stay on my side, because it is actually better if an enemy is tagging me, for that enemy to continue tagging me until they're just done, than for you to come in and attempt to help and probably clock me.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So
no, definitely. Because there were times where I was like, I'll save you, and then just murdered you.
Yeah. And, yeah, because you hit way harder than the bad guys hit. You know, so you're like, I'll save you, and you hit me with your time-traveling baseball bat, and I woke up in the future. So yeah, so I think that choice, ladle, and again, like, it could be done, like, you could leave friendly fire on if the game wasn't so difficult, because if, like, you know, and one of the things with the game's difficulty that I didn't care for is that if you reach the point where you have to continue, we're junted back to the beginning of the stage. If I reach the point where I have to continue, we're junted back to the beginning of the stage.
Right.
Which means that if we're off sync in that, we have, like, really hurt ourselves.
Oh yeah. Well, and that kept coming up in the
drop down,
the
yeah.
repelling stage, because, like, if you accidentally killed me twice with the stupid dumbbell thing, that's an awesome animation. The awesome dumbbell thing, and then I legitimately eat it fighting an enemy, it's like, well, now we have to continue, and some of those deaths feel pretty illegitimate.
Right.
So now, like, again, I'm not mad at the game, I'm mad at you, which is, like, breaking our Fellowship down.
Yeah, and then the issue is that, like, while you lost 3 lives, I lost 2 lives, right? So then we start rappelling down again. You lose a life, and now I lose a life, which means we're back to the beginning again, but now you're starting off with 2 lives.
Right.
So basically the state function of that was we both started off with 3 lives, a whole bunch of stuff happened, and now we're starting at the exact same place, but you're starting with 2 lives and I'm starting with 3.
Right.
You know, and so, like, and it can get even more bizarre and off sync than that, you know? So that which screws up the cycle time. So, like, all of that being said, like, you know, if none of that was happening, again, if, like, the cycle time was shorter or the game was less difficult, then it could be fun, you know, because it'd be like, oh, hey, you know, you tagged me, whatever, you know, like, because the penalty for that is so low. But yeah, so I think that, did they try? Yeah. Did they succeed? No, not really.
So I wonder, I didn't think of this earlier, but this kind of fits with the challenges. I'm just curious, what do you think if you could hit each other, but it didn't do any damage?
I think that would work, because then the penalty would be the delay of having been hit.
Right. And sometimes you might knock the person, like, off a cliff and then they would die.
Right.
But, like, if we're on flat ground and I clock you in the face, and because a lot of levels don't have pits, you're, like, in a building or you're in, like, an ice cave or something. So, like, if I clock you and it interrupts what you were doing, but it doesn't get you that much closer to death, like, that might be a small enough but meaningful step in the direction of, like, friendly fire is still on, but it doesn't make the game less fun with 2 people.
No, I like that a lot, because then, like, if I'm in the middle of, you know, chaining a bad guy, you know, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to come help, and then you, like, break my chain, I'd be like, dude, you know, but it's like, I wouldn't, the reward being that you might hit him, you know, so it's just like, well, you know, you broke my chain, whatever, as opposed to, like, no, you have, like, dramatically now reduced the chances of us being able to successfully do this.
Which would actually, now that I think about it, totally fit with the cartoony, like, the 80s, 90s cartoony aesthetic, because that's, like, how that stuff always goes, right? If Bugs Bunny is putting a bunch, and I know Bugs Bunny's not from the 80s, but, like, if Bugs Bunny is, like, building up a big pile of dynamite to, you know, stop Daffy Duck with, and it's one of the rare times he screws up and the dynamite goes off, he doesn't take the damage that Daffy Duck would have taken.
No, Daffy Duck would have been blown to pieces. He just gets, like, the, you know.
Yeah, he just looks silly for a minute, and he, like, looks directly into the camera, right? Like, that's, like, or then I guarantee you this happened in the Ninja Turtles cartoon where like one of them accidentally clocks the other one. And it's like, oh, that would have been a kill shot on a foot soldier, but instead now like Michelangelo and Donatello are just arguing, and it's a joke. Right? It's like somehow that kill shot against another Ninja Turtle is like just funny. Yeah. Right. So like there's already a lot of established canon that this is a way you could handle friendly fire to make it not exponentially increase the difficulty of the game.
There is
I wonder if there's any game that does that. I doubt it. If friendly fire is on, friendly fire is on. I doubt there's like a midway friendly fire like I'm describing.
I'm confident that there are enough games that a game has done it
on an infinite timeline.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like I'm confident that a game has done it, but I'm not confident it's like one that we would have ever heard of or will potentially. Yeah. Again, with an infinite number of them, we will play we will effectively play none of them. If there are an infinite number of games, we will effectively do this for the rest of our lives and have played zero.
Well, I'm immortal, so.
Yeah. that actually works out worse for you, but sadder. But and this is tangential, but the Bugs Bunny thing made me think of it. Have you seen the how Bugs Bunny would defeat Thanos?
No.
Oh, it's amazing. So basically the idea is that Bugs Bunny could easily defeat Thanos because like, you know, like basically it just shows Thanos walking up and it's in, somebody actually animated this in like the classic, like
oh, nice
Bugs Bunny thing. Yeah. Like Thanos walks up and he's like, I will destroy you. And he's like, absolutely. First you just have to walk through this metal detector. And Thanos is like, what? And he's like, yep, we're just going to take that glove off, please. And he's like, I refuse to leave my glove. And he's like, sir, you have to take your glove out. Look at all these people that you're holding up. And there's this line of Bugs Bunnies, like all different, like, you know, like one of us like holding a baby and all sorts of stuff. And he just like looks at the camera and does like that like befuddled Elmer Fudd look, you know? But yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Right? I was like, that is how Bugs Bunny would defeat Thanos.
Yeah. And it is, so I'm going to continue on this tangent. It irritated me a little bit, and sorry if you haven't seen Avengers, but I mean, come on. Like, if you haven't seen it, you don't care. It bothered me a little bit that in like one of the main fights, they're like, oh, we got to get the glove off of him. And they like have him all subdued and like they're holding his neck and the Mantis is like trying to like keep his mind under control. And it's like, wow, while his neck is exposed like that, did you think about murdering him? Because you know where it's really easy to take a glove off of is the dead person. And they establish seconds later that ending his life is an acceptable solution. Yeah. So it's like when you had the opportunity to kill him, why was just taking his gun away your solution? Like kill him and then take his gun away.
Well, and I'll do it, and eventually we'll probably stop on this tangent. I'll do you one better. They already showed us the solution that they should have used earlier in the movie, canonizing the solution. Because you remember how the big pipe hitting dude got defeated in like the first part, right?
Oh yeah, he gets like all turned into cubes.
No.
Sorry, yeah.
Thanos' minion.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Because he gets teleported to like I think like a ice area or desert. I forget where.
Yeah.
And then he reaches back
and they cut his hand off.
And they cut his hand off.
Yeah.
Do that.
No, and you know that scene. Because I didn't.
I feel like that was insulting to me. I was just kind of like, you didn't have to do that. And I love this movie, but
so because this movie is a duology, it's a two-parter, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, next time on Star Trek, it's a duet. It's bifurcated. Because it is a two-parter, there is a little part of me that hopes in the second movie that is how they get the gauntlet away from him. Yeah. And I want someone to just look right into the camera and be like, just like that other guy.
Remember.
Right? Or, yeah, like they could even, because I don't think that guy's dead. He's just trapped in the North Pole.
He came back and he's got a mechanical hand now or something like that.
Yeah, so like I would love for one of the Avengers to see him later and be like, wait a minute. And then just be like, sling ring, wrist cut off.
Yep. Hey, wait a minute. What if Palpatine's behind it all?
Yeah, exactly. So I really hope they cut his hand off.
But that does relate to the other core aesthetic of Discovery.
It's solid. Just
I know, right?
Absolutely strong work.
So anyways, Discovery is a game as uncharted territory. So this can be both you know, like visually uncharted territory. So you're going to see new places and explore new areas. It can also be mechanical uncharted territory, like an unfolding game. Minecraft actually has both, but Minecraft is an exemplar of both, where it's like sometimes you just like want to go see like what the world looks like, or you want to see what the end looks like, and all this sort of stuff. And there's also the fact it's like you could just literally, you know, stay in like a 10-foot by 10-foot room and just play that game.
Oh yeah,
you know, because like you're like, well, what if I put this and this together, and what, you know, like, so those are both that would count as Discovery.
So I have trouble with this one in a game where I have no control over where I go next. like I may want to see the next level. I may want to see, especially because you go to all different planets and and that's how they mechanically pull in, like, oh, the floor is slippery here because now you're on the ice planet, right? And this one is like there's a lot of pits because you're like way up in the sky and you're jumping from like platform to platform. So they pull in mechanical things by bringing you to different places, but because you have absolutely no control, unless you count the warps, you can jump around a little bit, but you have virtually no control over where you go. I don't really feel like I'm exploring. Like I want to see new stuff, but it's more like when you have the TV on and you're like, well, another show will start when this one ends because I have a cable television show turned on. And so the shows will just never end. As long as I keep playing the game, I will see new levels. It's not up to me to hang out on this one screen and play Minecraft, right?
So I think that, because again, the aesthetic is discovery specifically, so like, I don't know if that discovery has to be controlled, by the player, right? So the idea is it's just kind of like you keep playing and then like, you discover this new area, so I don't think unlike in Minecraft where you have way more agency in that discovery. I do think that, like, for example, like one of the reasons that I think that personally, I think that they do try to deliver on this, and I think they succeed with an asterisk. So
a yes with an if, and a no with a but.
I think that they do because the visuals of the levels are so varied, Yeah. So like the first level, like you're like, oh, okay, well there are these bad guy types, and like this level, and then like, oh, now I'm like rappelling down and it looks different. Like I'm in some like brain area, now I'm on an ice planet, and like all like looks different and cool, and there are different bad guys and they behave differently, and I get to discover all of that. Like, and that was all really cool, And I remember as a kid being like, oh man, like I wonder what the next level is going to look like. The asterisk is that it's so unbearably difficult that it hamstrings the discovery, right? Because that's the thing, is that like I agree with you, the fact of like, I don't think that you have to have perfect agency in like when or where or the order in which you discover these things. I think that you do have to have the ability to discover them.
Yeah. So I agree with you on the amount that they're trying. We are opposite on the amount that they succeed, because from my point of view, the less agency I have, the less I feel like I'm discovering. And in this case, like to really tease this all the way apart, if every level had like little secrets in it, right? Or like sometimes enemies came from different places, and so you always had to kind of like be on guard and like discover like, oh, if I come in from the top part of this screen, then the enemies will spawn at the bottom, which is harder for me because then they're down near an instant death pit. But if I come in from the bottom of the screen near the instant death pit, the enemies come in from the top, and then I can just bull rush them. Like that kind of discovery I could totally enjoy, but I don't feel like any of that is available to me. And there's no real secrets. There's a couple warps, right, throughout the game, like Mario pipe style warps where it just jumps you forward. But I don't really feel like I'm discovering anything new. I feel like I'm being taken on a tour, and unfortunately, the price for going on that tour is way more than I can afford.
Right.
Right, in terms of ability.
Yeah, literally not more than you're willing to pay, more than you can afford. Like it is beyond your game literacy pocketbook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't feel I do feel like they're trying to be like, oh, look at this next thing. Don't you want to go see that next thing? But I'm just like, sure. Like when I get there, I'd love to see it, but I don't feel like compelled the way you would in a more open game where you had more agency, or where there was more like little hidden secrets. Like I personally don't feel like I'm like, yeah, like yay, stuff for me to unlock and discover. Yeah.
So like I said, like, and even mine, I say, like, I do think that they succeed. I think the fact that, most of it is locked away behind an impossible door,
right.
I mean, it would be very similar to saying, like, I'm going to create an amazing Star Wars game, but you only get to play it if you pay $500 in loot box, and nobody liked that. Nobody likes this. So yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Is behind a paywall, this one in blood. It's just beyond some. So I'm just kind of like, man, it's. I'm sure it's really cool. I wish I could see it.
Yeah.
So so I definitely think that Discovery, they're absolutely trying, and they're not successful.
Yeah.
Like they're close, but no cigar.
Yeah.
So then expression, game as self-discovery.
No. No.
Moving on. Abnegation.
Yeah, I mean they're not trying or succeeding. Like
Yeah.
this is one of the ones I would assume the designers left completely off the list.
Yeah, like this is nothing to do with, like there's no expression, nothing. They're not even not trying, not succeeding.
Yeah, it's not Mario Paint.
Yeah, enough said.
Oh, God, we should play Mario Paint.
Abnegation, game as pastime, or this is a good. The example I always love to give as abnegation for me personally is watching Friends, the TV show. Like you just come in. There ain't nothing new or novel about that. I've seen it all a million times, and I don't really want. I want to like have something on. I just don't want to be watching anything, or
Right.
I even want to watch it. I just don't want to like think. You just want to put your brain in neutral and like go like that's
That I agree with you. That to me is the core. Is like I don't have to put a lot of effort into this.
Right.
Like I am playing a video game, so it's not as passive as watching television or listening to music. It's more like the level of interaction of like sort of cursorily reading a book or a TV show being on in the background where like you are watching for the jokes, right? Like it's not just on and you're ignoring it. You are following along, which does take some effort. A video game always takes a certain minimum amount of effort because you got to press buttons. But like you can't passively play Battletoads unless you are so unbelievably good at this game, which I mean, for like a speedrunner or someone who is like going for the world record for like 100% or like maximum glitches, like I want to finish the game in 45 seconds, right? Like, yeah, that person is probably good enough at Battletoads that if they played it like a normal person would play it, that it would be abnegation, but that's not what they were going for. They weren't trying to target the greatest players in the world market.
right. Yeah, no, I and that's the thing is that I think like as far as abnegation goes, this is. I don't think they're trying. I don't think they're succeeding. This is bizarro abnegation. Like this is mirror abnegation. Like this is like abnegation. Like if Friends is abnegation, this is like watching Friends with a giant goatee stuck right on my screen. like this is it is the opposite of that. This takes complete unbridled focus.
Yes.
Like you have to
bring all of your attention, then
Yeah.
go to the store and get more attention, and then bring that.
Yeah, go broke at the store, getting more attention. Like get to the point where like you're scratching your face. You're in an alley and you like lure somebody in there and stab them and take their attention. Like just get all of the attention. You know what it is? It's like Goku doing the spirit bomb but with attention. That's what it is.
Well, and
Share your focus with me.
all the trees start to wilt.
All the trees get bored and start wandering away.
but it feels like a beat 'em up is like beat 'em up and bullet hell games that's what they're supposed to be. Like if you could play this game passively, it would probably be a really crappy beat 'em up because how do you feel if you were walking down the street and every single thing you saw was trying to kill you, including your friend who's supposed to be helping you? Like you should be at maximum adrenaline, like, ears, finely tuned, eyes scanning, the alleyway corners constantly. Like you should be up at all tens on all of your senses because the alternative is to get beaten to death by a pig monster with an axe.
So now I'm just thinking that if you want to describe a side-scrolling beat 'em up that is abnegation, you know what that world is? That is the world that Saitama is in.
Oh man, that would make a fun game,
right? See, so I mean, it can't be done, but you got to be really specific about it. Where you just like walk through, it's like,
you know what it is? It's because to have a beat 'em up that requires or that is designed to be a high level of abnegation, that has to have Corvette red paint, right?
Yeah.
It has to have the Saitama theming. Otherwise, you would be like, "Why is this so easy? This is boring."
Yeah, but then if all of a sudden it was just oh my god, I would love to play One Punch Man, the side-scrolling beat 'em up.
Totally.
Dude. Okay. Whoever owns One Punch Man, at us.
Go outside your house.
We're getting a lot of IP on this show.
Yeah, right. A lot of ideas people are going to rip off and get rich on.
So all of that being said, I went ahead and did a quick rough total, and we don't do this enough to really have enough data to, so this is just a data point.
Yeah, no, this is fun measurement, not scientific measurement.
Yeah, but that being said, is like this game for tries, it comes in at a 19. And for succeeds, it comes in at an 11, which puts it at about a little bit more than 50% success rate, like about 56% success rate.
That feels super unscientific.
Yeah, it is.
No. Yeah, because you would have to wait like
Well, that's the thing. So we don't have enough data. We can't. That's the thing. Is that we don't know what an A is. We don't know what an F is.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
We don't know. Like we haven't done this enough times to say like, okay, generally for games that we feel held up, they normally score in like we don't know what rotten is versus fresh. You know, like games that hold up are normally 80% or higher. Games that are iffy, like Nostalgia Monocle, is normally between 60 to 80, and then everything below is terrible. Or maybe it's like it doesn't really get terrible, and so it starts to get into like the 10s or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
But that being said, though, Did it hold up?
So I gotta say yes, and weirdly, because my memories of this game are of it being absurdly hard based on my skill level at the time. My lived experience, it is absurdly hard based on my skill level now, which I'm at least as good as I was at video games as like a 10-year-old. So I'm like, I didn't get any worse. But I now have all of this extra baggage of like how I expect games to operate and how I expect the controls to respond and stuff. And so you have to like reorient yourself. But the reason I have to say it requires nostalgia goggles, because unless you go back, I'm going to say nostalgia monocle. It requires the nostalgia monocle because unless you are getting into games late in life and you never played this era and you're like, oh, I want to go back and master these, like this is a goal. This is my Everest, right? I want to master Battletoads and be a speedrunner. Like you wouldn't enjoy this just sitting down to play it if you hadn't played it as a kid, because it is so hard. But going into it, we knew what we were signing up for and had a grand old time. Like we were laughing our asses off at how poorly we were doing every time we accidentally murdered each other. But I knew going in what I was going to do, right? It's like there's Ninja Warrior, which is like an obstacle course that they expect you to be successful at. And then there's like Double Dare, where you're slipping and falling and you have a helmet and pads because you're supposed to make an ass of yourself.
Right.
You're going in for the silliness, right? And like that was the lived experience, was the giggling and the silliness. So like, yeah, I had a really good time. Like it totally held up to my expectation. But the reason I would say the game as a whole has to have the nostalgia monocle is because if you don't know, if you think you're going on Ninja Warrior and you actually are going on Double Dare, you would have a horrible experience.
That's fair. I think that this is where I think the question of does it require nostalgia goggles and does it hold up to current gaming conventions is actually two different questions.
Yes.
Because like, does it hold up like as far as like, is this a game that if it were released today and was not like very explicitly saying like this is like a rage game, like we are making a game that is intentionally obtuse and difficult.
Right.
Like, no, it doesn't. Like like we said, like, and I think that Celeste being a good juxtaposition for it is that, Celeste is about this hard, but its cycle times are, 1/100th as long, And
it has accommodations built in.
Yeah. And. So I think that that's a good juxtaposition. However, that being said, like, it does what it says on the tin. The only person I would recommend specifically not play this is somebody who has no cultural awareness of Battletoads.
Right.
Like if you're like if you're a mom, you're like, Lee Harvey's putting challenge. Oh no, I bought him for that last Christmas. Battletoads, whatever, like
close enough.
Yeah, and then like you plug that in and you're like, oh god, this is awful. But if you have any cultural awareness of Battletoads, it's exactly the way you remember it, if you remember it. And if not, if all you have is the cultural awareness, it definitely
it is as described.
It is as described. So for me personally, I give it actually, you know what? Sorry, hang on one fast. I gotta use the bathroom. Hang on. Oh, what? We're still doing this? It's Nostalgia Monocle.
The curtain falls, the music plays, the credits roll, then it all fades to black, and you're left by yourself. The fanfare is gone, there's no player two there by your side to share victories won. But as you slowly progress down the hall to your bed, a few great events leak back into your head from the time that you spent traversing the land, battling evil, fighting the darkness, just sword in hand. Your memories creep in the end of a smile, you realize again what you lost for a while. You're gonna think back much less on how you saved the day than on all the experience gained at the end of it all. Gamers play what we play, not for game over, but rather for what we take away. The world is sad, but who cares? We all know that that's not what you came for. Your next adventure's already in sight. You're all set to go. You're excited to see what's all wrong till it's right, and the world is saved. So you're more along for the ride. You're more along for the ride. You're more along for the ride. You're more along for the
Sorry, you paused.